The Korean War was a significant conflict that took place from 1950 to 1953. It began on June 25, 1950, and had a profound impact on the Korean peninsula and international relations. After World War II, Korea, previously under Japanese rule, was divided along the 38th parallel. The Soviet Union administered the north, while the United States administered the south, creating two separate states with differing ideologies. The Democratic People's Republic of Korea, also known as North Korea, was led by the communist Kim Il-sung. The Republic of Korea, or South Korea, was led by the anti-communist Syngman Rhee. Both leaders sought to unify the peninsula under their respective ideologies, leading to heightened tensions along the border. The situation escalated into open warfare when North Korean forces, armed with Soviet tanks and artillery, launched a surprise attack across the 38th parallel. The North Korean People's Army swiftly advanced into South Korea, catching the Roke Army unprepared. The KPA's objective was to unify the peninsula by force under communist rule. Seoul, the capital of South Korea, fell to the North Koreans within days, delivering a major blow to the South. The speed and ferocity of the invasion took the United States and its allies by surprise. The United States, fearing the spread of communism, quickly decided to intervene in the conflict. The United Nations Security Council, with the Soviet Union absent, condemned the invasion and authorized military assistance to South Korea. This marked the beginning of the United States' involvement in a major conflict in Asia, signifying the global nature of the Cold War. Responding to the UN Security Council resolution, President Harry S. Truman committed U.S. forces to the Korean peninsula. The U.S. 8th Army, stationed in Japan, was mobilized under the command of General Douglas MacArthur. The United States' involvement was critical in stemming the North Korean advance and preventing the collapse of South Korea. Along with the United States, 20 other countries sent troops or provided medical aid under the UN flag, forming a multinational force. This marked the first time the United Nations engaged in a military conflict to defend a member state from aggression. However, the initial UN and South Korean forces faced a difficult challenge in pushing back the North Korean army, which was well equipped and highly motivated. Section 4. Turning the tide at Incheon. In September 1950, General MacArthur orchestrated a daring amphibious landing at Incheon, a port city west of Seoul. The Incheon landing, considered a brilliant strategic maneuver, outflanked the North Korean forces. The success of the Incheon landing shifted the momentum of the war in favor of the UN and South Korean forces. The North Korean army, caught off guard and facing pressure from the south and the west, began to retreat. Seoul was recaptured by UN and South Korean forces, marking a turning point in the war. The Incheon landing demonstrated the strategic importance of naval power and amphibious operations in modern warfare. Section 5. China enters the fray. As UN and South Korean forces pushed northward, approaching the Yalu River bordering China, the Chinese government issued warnings against encroaching on its security interests. China, fearing a potential invasion and the presence of hostile forces on its border, intervened in the war in October 1950. Hundreds of thousands of Chinese troops, known as the People's Volunteer Army, crossed the Yalu River into North Korea, surprising the UN and South Korean forces. The entrance of China, a major communist power, significantly altered the course of the war. The Chinese intervention pushed back UN and South Korean forces from their advances, leading to a stalemate along a new front line near the 38th parallel. The Korean War transformed from a conflict between North and South Korea into a proxy war between the superpowers, the United States and China. Section 6. Stalemate and attrition. The war entered a period of stalemate after China's intervention, with neither side able to achieve a decisive victory. The front line stabilized around the 38th parallel, where it had begun. Both sides dug in, engaging in trench warfare and launching costly offensives and counter-offensives. The war became a grueling battle of attrition, resulting in heavy casualties on both sides. Millions of soldiers and civilians were killed or wounded during this period, highlighting the devastating human cost of the war. Negotiations for a ceasefire began in 1951, but fighting continued as both sides sought leverage at the negotiating table. Section 7. Armistice and Division. After 2 years of negotiations, an armistice agreement was finally signed on July 27, 1953, ending the Korean War. The armistice agreement established a demilitarized zone along the 38th parallel, separating North and South Korea. However, a formal peace treaty was never signed, leaving the two Koreas technically still at war. The Korean War had a profound impact on the Korean peninsula and international relations. Korea remained divided, with a heavily fortified border separating the two Koreas. The war solidified the division of Korea and intensified the Cold War rivalry between the United States and the Soviet Union.